Hi, my name is Isabella Vos and I'm a Senior Research Analyst with the Australian Institute of Criminology. Today I'll be discussing a study that we recently conducted looking at the cost of pure cybercrime among Australian individuals. So on a Sunday afternoon in March this year, Channel 9 posted a tweet which read, "The technology that brings you 9 News every night is under attack by hackers." A sophisticated and calculated attack fundamentally disrupted the network systems, meaning they were unable to broadcast their news and current affairs content. Malware rapidly spread through Channel 9 systems, with some experts pointing to fraudulent IT updates being sent out to users to spread the infection. So malware often starts with phishing, in which mass emails are sent out to the public with the intention of deceiving individuals into installing a file or clicking on a link. So it's likely that a full recovery behind the scenes took a significant amount of time and money, not only to fix the existing problems, but to address the underlying vulnerabilities that cause the attack to be so effective. So malware, like that used in the attack on Channel 9, is any kind of malicious software, and it includes a range of subtypes, such as ransomware and viruses. Ransomware is when hackers break into a system and steal victims' data and threaten to publish it or block access to it permanently unless a ransom is paid. So the Australian Cybersecurity Centre has labelled ransomware the highest threat facing Australian businesses, while the FBI Director Christopher Wray said that they're treating ransomware investigations with the same priority as terrorism. So these types of crime, malware, hacking and DDoS attacks, fall under the broad category of pure cybercrime, also known as cyber-dependent crime. And these types of crimes are crimes directed at computers and IT systems and can't be committed without this kind of technology. This is in contrast to other types of cybercrime, such as frauds and scams and identity theft, which most often use technology but can hypothetically be committed without them. So for every pure cybercrime attack on big business that you read about in the news, there are dozens of attacks affecting everyday individuals outside of public view. Cybercrime is massively underreported and undercounted, and this is often because victims themselves are unable to detect problems and are often reluctant to divulge information on cyber attacks. This means, for example, that an estimated 80 to 90% of hacks resulting in data theft are often not reported. So until this study, we haven't had any reliable prevalence estimates for Australian individuals, and we don't know the kinds of economic harm this is inflicting. So it's imperative that the prevalence of cybercrime and associated financial harm are assessed so that resources for prevention and response activities can be targeted most effectively, and a baseline can be developed against which we can measure the impact of policy responses. As such, our study aimed to measure the prevalence of pure cybercrime and the associated costs among Australian individuals, and drawing on these population estimates, calculate the total economic impact of pure cybercrime among individuals in 2019. The AIC surveyed 11,840 individuals on their experiences of pure cybercrime. The survey was administered online and comprised 30 open and closed choice questions and took about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. Respondents were drawn from 2 online panels, one probability sampling, one non-probability sampling, and the resulting data was then weighted to better reflect the distribution of the wider Australian population. So the survey covered 3 broad types of crime: computer access crimes, where victims discover that another person has gained access to their computer network or device without their permission. So this is essentially hacking. Computer disruption crimes, where victims' devices are attacked, leading to the disruption of computer or network operations, and this includes crimes such as malware and ransomware. And computer malfunction crimes, where victims experience a malfunction on their devices or networks, and they believe this was caused by criminally motivated people. So survey respondents were given descriptions of each type of crime so that they didn't report incidents that didn't meet the criteria, such as when cybersecurity software identified a problem but prevented it from doing any damage. 4 types of costs were included in the analysis. It was money directly lost from victims, money spent on consequences, money spent on prevention, and money that was recovered by victims. These costs were then extrapolated out to the Australian population using ABS data, and the final total cost of pure cybercrime was calculated. Here are our results. So 34% of the weighted sample had ever been a victim of at least one form of pure cybercrime, so that's about 1 in 3 people, and 14% had been a victim in the last 12 months. This equates to 2.8 million Australians who were victims of pure cybercrime in the last year. The most prevalent type of victimisation was computer disruption crime, where 29% of all respondents indicated that they had been a victim at some point in the past. So notably, many victims experienced multiple types of incidents. 15% of past year victims experienced all three forms of cybercrime, while a further 19% experienced two forms. More often than not, cybercrime victims knew they had lost money, but they were unable to report how much exactly they had lost. However, when victims knew how much they had lost, the amount was most often less than $1,000. The median amount lost by victims was between $200 and $300, depending on the type of attack, although some victims reported substantial losses, with the highest being $215,000. When we took the total amount lost in the sample and extrapolated that out to the Australian population, it equaled $1.9 billion. So to put that in perspective, with that amount of money, you could pay for over 133,000 people to get a one-year graduate certificate of cybersecurity. Next, we cost the money spent on consequences. The most costly aspect of dealing with cybercrime victimisation was the amount of time that victims had to take off work in order to address the problems, which was over $1,200 on average. They also spent an average of $514 buying new hardware, $341 buying peripheral hardware for new systems, and $224 on IT repair. When we took the total amount lost in the sample and extrapolated that out to the Australian population, it equaled nearly $600 million. Again, that's spent in 1 year. So with $600 million, you could buy personal security software packages for close to 10 million Australian citizens. Next, we cost the money spent on prevention, both by victims and non-victims. Victims spent a significant amount of money installing new devices and software, while non-victims spent the most money taking out insurance. When we took the total amount spent in the sample and extrapolated that out, it equaled $1.4 billion. Fortunately, some victims were able to recover some of the money that they had lost, but it was not much in comparison. So between $200 and $321, depending on the type of crime, and this was extrapolated out to equal $388 million for the wider Australian population. So we could then take the money directly lost by victims, the money spent on consequences and the money spent on prevention, while then subtracting the money that was able to be recovered by victims to give us our final cost. And this was nearly $3.5 billion. With that amount, you could buy cybersecurity risk assessments for 140,000 mid-sized businesses at the price of $25,000 each. So clearly, cybersecurity is no longer something that can be relegated to the IT department. It has significant consequences for Australian individuals, both in terms of the time and money that they lose. Over a third of the sample had been a victim of pure cybercrime at some point in the past, and 14% had been victims in the last year. A significant number of victims experience multiple types of cybercrime incidents, and this speaks to the co-occurrence of cybercrime offences and highlights the need to identify individuals who are at risk of repeat victimisation. The total economic impact of pure cybercrime to individuals in Australia in 2019 was estimated to be $3.5 billion. Importantly, this is a conservative estimate because many victims were unable to report exactly how much they had lost or had spent on dealing with the consequences of victimisation. This also excludes the cost to businesses and to government of pure cybercrime. Nevertheless, our findings highlight that pure cybercrime is a highly profitable criminal activity which results in significant financial losses to Australian individuals. Thank you.